I want to speak to that part of you that is tired, the part that has been looking at life through anxious eyes for so long that it almost forgot another way of seeing exists. The part that wakes up already braced, the part that notices what is missing before it notices what is present, the part that scans for danger, delay, disappointment, rejection, trouble, and then quietly calls that being realistic. My dear one, I understand that part of you. I really do. But I want to offer it something softer today, something truer, something healing. My good is everywhere does not mean life has no difficulty. It does not mean you deny pain, pretend there are no problems, or force yourself into false positivity. It simply means you begin turning your attention in a different direction. It means you stop making anxiety your only pair of eyes. If life has looked dark, perhaps you have been looking through the eyes of fear. So, breathe out slowly with me now. Let the shoulders drop, let the jaw soften, and ask yourself gently, if I believed good was present today, how would I move differently? How would I speak differently? How would I breathe differently? How would I treat myself? How would I interpret this moment? My dear one, you do not need life to change first in order to begin opening. Sometimes life begins to open because you change the way you are looking. I do not need the whole world to change before I begin to see differently. I am secure and safe. My good is everywhere. One of the great misunderstandings people have about good is that they expect it to arrive loudly. They imagine that if something good is happening, it will come like fireworks, certainty, dramatic rescue, sudden applause, visible proof, a giant answered prayer with no ambiguity around it at all. But life is often much gentler than that. Good frequently arrives quietly. It comes as a helpful delay that kept you from the wrong place at the wrong time. It comes as one kind person in a hard week. It comes as an idea in the shower. It comes as a closed door that spared you something not meant for you. It comes as 1 hour of rest after many tired days. It comes as a sentence you hear at exactly the right time. It comes as a body that is still trying to heal. It comes as a peaceful morning, an unexpected solution, a simpler path, a little more clarity, a little more courage, one less thing to fear, one more thing to trust. Good is often a signal, not a spectacle. I want you to remember that. Good is often a signal, not a spectacle. So many people miss the good because they are waiting for it to look dramatic. But good is often whispering, while fear is shouting. Good is often a clue, a nudge, a small opening, a little rearrangement that does not look like a reward at first, but later you see its wisdom. My dear one, the good in your life may not always feel like a prize. Sometimes it feels like support. Sometimes it feels like protection. Sometimes it feels like a quiet redirection. Sometimes it feels like one tiny thread of ease in the middle of a difficult season, but that does not make it less real. The good in your life does not need to be loud to be true. In fact, Some of the most life-changing goodness arrives quietly enough that only a calm heart notices it. And that is why your attention matters so much. Because if your whole nervous system is trained only to detect threat, then good may already be here and still go unseen. Not because life is withholding from you, but because your inner radar has been set to scan for danger instead of support. And this brings us to something very practical and very beautiful: the inner radar of the mind. Some people call it the reticular activating system, but you do not need the scientific name to understand the truth of it. The mind notices what it has been told matters. If you buy a red car, suddenly you see red cars everywhere. If you become worried about betrayal, you begin noticing signs of betrayal everywhere. If you believe you are behind, you start finding evidence that you are behind. The mind filters, selects, and highlights according to what it has been trained to look for. So when you begin saying, "My good is everywhere," you are not inventing goodness from nothing. You are giving the mind a new instruction. You are saying, start noticing support. Start noticing help. Start noticing timing. Start noticing openings. Start noticing kindness. Start noticing evidence that life is not only danger. What you look for, you find. That is such a powerful truth. What you look for, you find. Not because reality is fake, but because attention is selective. Attention shapes experience. Attention trains emotion. Attention tells the nervous system what kind of world it is living in. This is why an anxious person can walk through a day and find 10 signs that life is unsafe, while a calmer person may walk through the same day and notice 10 signs that life is still supporting them. The difference is not always the day. Often, the difference is the radar. One mind is scanning for danger. One mind is scanning for good. My dear one, the radar becomes destiny more often than people realize, because what you repeatedly notice affects what you repeatedly feel, and what you repeatedly feel affects how you behave, and how you behave affects what you allow, choose, receive, and create. Attention is the doorway through which your experience is organized. So if you keep saying, "Nothing good ever happens," the mind begins to gather evidence in support of that claim. But if you begin saying, "My good is everywhere," the mind starts searching differently. It starts highlighting what it once ignored. It starts saying, "Ah, there it is, that kind person, that opening, that lesson, that pause, that protection, that idea, that breath, that support." Now, I want to be very clear. This does not mean you force yourself to deny what hurts. It does not mean you say, "Everything is wonderful," while your heart is obviously grieving. That would not be healing. That would be pressure. No, my dear one. This practice is much gentler. It simply means that pain does not get to be the only thing your mind is allowed to notice. It means fear is no longer the sole authority deciding what is real. It means that even in a hard day, you are willing to look for one thread of good, and that one thread matters. Because one thread becomes a little more breath. A little more breath becomes a little more calm. A little more calm becomes a wider field of perception. And in that wider field, more good becomes visible. When I calm my body, I can see more clearly. That is part of the safety good loop. When you feel safer, even a little safer, your attention broadens. You become less tunnel visioned. You notice more options, more help, more beauty, more timing, more support. And then noticing those things helps the body feel safer still. Safety helps you see good, and seeing good helps you feel safer. This is such a healing loop, my dear one. So many people live inside the opposite loop. Fear makes them see danger, and seeing danger makes them fear more. But now you are practicing another way, a gentler way, a life-giving way. Let me give you a very small practice you can use today, just 60 seconds. Look around and name 3 tiny forms of good. They do not need to be dramatic. A quiet room, a warm drink, a body that is still breathing, a message from someone kind, a bed, a lesson learned, a moment of silence, a patch of sunlight, a decision you are finally ready to make, a problem that did not become worse, a delay that gave you time, a stranger's smile, the ability to begin again. My dear one, small good still counts as good. In fact, small good is often what retrains the nervous system most gently because it is believable, it is touchable, it is here. So say them softly. This tea is good, this breath is good, this quiet is good, or this insight is good, this rest is good, this opening is good. The point is not to impress yourself. The point is to direct the radar. The point is to practice seeing what anxious eyes often skip over. What I notice grows stronger in my experience. And when you do this over and over, something begins to change. Not overnight, perhaps, but truly. The body stops living in quite so much scarcity. That word matters, scarcity, because scarcity is not only about money. Scarcity is an inner state that says, there is not enough support, there is not enough time, there is not enough safety, there is not enough love, there is not enough ease, there is not enough good. Scarcity narrows attention. It creates tunnel vision. It says, only look at what is missing. But abundance begins with a different kind of seeing. Not, I already have everything, but I am willing to notice what is here. Scarcity narrows. Abundance notices. When you practice seeing good, you begin stepping out of inner scarcity. You begin saying, life is not only absence. Life is also presence. Life is also support. Life is also possibility. And that shift changes everything. Because a person who believes good exists behaves differently from a person who believes only trouble is real. So if today you are tired of scanning for what is wrong, tired of expecting the worst, Tired of living as though only threat deserves your attention? Then let this be your beginning. My good is everywhere. Say it softly. My good is everywhere. Again, my good is everywhere. Not because life is perfect, because life is more than your fear has been showing you. Because good does not always arrive loudly. Because your mind can be taught to look again. Because you are allowed to be secure and safe even while the world is still changing. I am secure and safe. What I look for, I find. My good is everywhere. What happens to your choices, my dear one, when you feel there is not enough? Not enough time, not enough love, not enough money, not enough support, not enough certainty, not enough opportunity, not enough room to breathe, not enough good in the world for you to trust. Just sit with that gently for a moment, because the answer to that question explains so much. When you feel there is not enough, your whole being narrows. The mind narrows, the breath narrows, the vision narrows, the body narrows, the heart narrows, and from that narrowed state, you begin to act differently. You rush, you compare, you cling, you check, you panic. You take what is in front of you because you are afraid something better will never come. You over-explain because you are afraid your value will be missed. You overwork because you are afraid rest will cost you. You hold on too tightly because you are afraid losing one thing means losing everything. My dear one, that is the psychology of scarcity. It is not only about money. It is about the inner feeling of, there is not enough for me. And that feeling changes the way you see your whole life. Fear of lack makes you act smaller than your soul. And that is why we must speak of it so tenderly, so honestly, and with so much love. Scarcity does not always announce itself directly. It does not always say, I am living in lack. Sometimes it sounds more respectable than that. It sounds like, I just need to make sure, or I do not want to miss my chance, or I have to keep checking, or I need to hurry before it is too late, or I had better grab this while I can. But underneath those thoughts, there is often the same emotional atmosphere, not enoughness, a sense that life is limited, that support is unreliable, that good is scarce, that if you do not force, you will miss out. And the body hears all of this. It hears the tension. It hears the fear. It hears the urgency. And it begins to live in a kind of tunnel vision. Scarcity narrows your field of vision. It makes you focus so intensely on what you fear losing that you cannot see the larger landscape anymore. You stop seeing options. You stop seeing timing. You stop seeing help. You stop seeing the quiet forms of good that are already here. You stop seeing that life may have more pathways than the one your panic is staring at. This is why scarcity so often leads to rushed decisions. When the nervous system feels there is not enough, it does not want to pause. It does not want to reflect. It wants immediate relief. It wants immediate reassurance. It wants immediate movement, even if the movement is not wise. My dear one, how many times have you said yes too quickly because you were afraid there would not be another chance? How many times have you stayed in something misaligned because you were afraid nothing better would come? How many times have you spoken from fear instead of from truth because you were afraid of losing approval? How many times have you made a choice simply because it soothed the momentary anxiety of uncertainty, even though your deeper self already knew it was not right? Scarcity makes the soul feel hurried, and when the soul feels hurried, it often stops listening to wisdom. That is why I want you to become very aware of the feeling of lack inside the body, not to shame it, not to fight it, just to notice it. Because once you notice it, you can begin to soften it. You see, abundance is not first an outer amount. It is first a state of inner perception. I am not saying practical realities do not matter. Of course they do. But abundance begins much earlier than the bank account or the visible outcome. Abundance begins in the feeling of enoughness, in the inner atmosphere that says, there is room, there is support. I do not need to rush this moment into becoming something else in order to survive it. Abundance begins in the way you pay attention. My dear one, that is so important. Because many people think abundance will begin after they get what they want, but often the deeper shift begins when they stop noticing only what is missing and start noticing what is already available. A person in an abundant state sees options where fear saw walls. A person in an abundant state notices one small opening instead of worshiping one closed door. A person in an abundant state chooses with more dignity because the nervous system is not acting as though this one moment is the last possible chance for love, safety, support, or success. That is why I want you to remember this. Fullness begins in the way you notice. If all day long you notice what is absent, what is delayed, what is disappointing, what is uncertain, what is not yet here, what is not enough, then you are training the whole system into scarcity. But if you begin noticing support, timing, kindness, options, resources, lessons, rest, breath, space, possibility, and all the tiny forms of good that already exist, then you are teaching the body another way to live. This does not mean pretending that pain is not pain. It simply means that fear no longer gets to be the only lens, and that changes everything. Now, there are some very clear signs that you may be living in scarcity mode, and I want to name them lovingly so you can recognize yourself without judgment. One sign is comparison. When you are in scarcity, you look around and immediately feel smaller because someone else seems ahead, richer, safer, more loved, more recognized, more stable, more healed, more successful. You begin to feel as though their good takes something from your possibility. My dear one, that is scarcity talking. It says, there is only so much good to go around, and perhaps there is not enough left for me. But life is not a tiny emotional pantry. Someone else's good does not steal your good. Someone else being loved does not prove you are unlovable. Someone else receiving does not mean you have been excluded. Comparison is often the mind's way of proving the story of lack. That is why comparison drains so much life force. It keeps your eyes on someone else's field while your own soil is waiting to be tended. Another sign is haste. Scarcity rushes. It says, decide now, respond now, secure this now, say yes now, fix this now. Do not breathe, do not wait, do not listen. Hurry. And what happens, my dear one? When you are hurried, you often lose your own signal. You lose your own wisdom. You forget your own values. You say yes to avoid discomfort. You overcommit to avoid uncertainty. You choose from fear rather than from truth. Haste is often fear pretending to be efficiency. And then there is checking, obsessive checking, checking the phone, the account, the result, the message, the signs, the numbers, the person, the progress, the proof. Scarcity keeps checking because it does not trust life. It says, if I stop monitoring, I will miss my chance. If I stop checking, something bad will happen. If I cannot confirm it constantly, I cannot rest. My dear one, checking is not always about information. It is often about the frightened body trying to find certainty in a world where certainty does not come that way. Comparison, haste, and obsessive checking are often three little flags that say, my nervous system is living in lack right now. But now let us move into something beautiful, because there is a healing loop you can begin practicing, and I love it so much. I call it the safety good loop. It is very simple, and yet it changes so much. When the body feels safe, even a little safer, the mind broadens, the breath deepens, the vision widens, creativity returns, possibility becomes visible again. You begin to see more paths, more ideas, more options, more good. And when you see more good, the body feels safer still. Safety helps you notice good, and good helps you feel safe. That is such a beautiful loop. It is the opposite of the fear scarcity loop. Fear narrows your attention, which makes you notice more threat, which makes you fear more. But safety softens your attention, which helps you notice more support, which makes you feel safer, which widens perception even more. My dear one, this is why peace is not some luxury state you get after everything is solved. Peace is the foundation from which wise seeing becomes possible. Peace is not the finish line. Peace is the ground. Think about how differently the mind works when the body is soothed. When you are frightened, you cannot always see clearly. Your creativity contracts. Your ability to imagine better outcomes shrinks. Your emotional flexibility disappears. But when you are calmer, you suddenly notice things that were there all along. The right words, the next step, the person who can help, the option you had missed, the timing that is actually wiser, the delay that was protection, the small good that is still present. Safety is the condition that allows opportunity to become visible. This is why nervous system care is not separate from spiritual life, not separate from manifestation, not separate from wise decision making. A soothed system sees more. A frightened system sees less. So if you want more access to guidance, to flow, to abundance, to possibility, to solutions, then begin with safety. Begin with the breath. Begin with the body. Begin with the way you speak to yourself. Begin with your relationship to this moment. My dear one, imagine two people walking through the same day. One is in a frightened scarcity state. She notices what is late, what is missing, what is uncertain, who is ahead, what might go wrong, what she still lacks, what has not yet arrived. Her chest tightens, her mind speeds up, and she becomes more reactive. The other person, even in the same imperfect day, begins by soothing the nervous system. She breathes. She notices three good things. She remembers that she is safe in this moment. She looks for what is here before she worships what is not. Suddenly, she sees a kind message, a new thought, a moment to pause, a better route, a small solution, a bit of support. Her body softens, which helps her see more, which helps her feel safer. Do you see, my dear? The outer day may not be entirely different, but the lived experience of it becomes very different because the loop is different. Inner safety changes outer perception, and because the safety good loop is so powerful, one of the most practical things you can do is to deliberately open it every day. How? Very simply, list three good things. Not enormous good, not theatrical good, small good, real good, believable good, a warm drink, a quiet room, a clear thought, a person who smiled, a little more rest than yesterday, a bill paid, a kind message, a walk, a body that is still breathing, a difficult conversation that ended better than expected. My dear one, this practice is not childish. It is training. It tells the mind, look again, look wider. There is more here than fear first told you. And when you notice three good things, the body often softens. When the body softens, you notice a fourth, and then a fifth. Good becomes easier to see when the body stops looking only for threat. That is the loop opening. I want you to think of this almost like tuning a radio. Scarcity tunes you to what is missing. Safety tunes you to what is possible. And because attention is selective, what you are tuned to becomes louder in your experience. This is why the three good things practice matters so much. Not because you are trying to be cheerful, because you are retraining the radar. You are telling the subconscious, support matters too, beauty matters too, timing matters too, openings matter too. My dear one, your life changes when your radar changes. not because you become blind to difficulty, but because difficulty stops being the only thing your whole system recognizes as real. And let us not forget this: abundance is not only financial, abundance is emotional spaciousness. It is the feeling that there is enough room to breathe, enough time to pause, enough worth to say no, enough support to begin again, enough life to not collapse around one closed door. Scarcity says, "This one thing must work or I am ruined." Abundance says, "Life may have more ways than I can currently see." Scarcity says, "I had better take this or there will be nothing else." Abundance says, "I can wait for what aligns." Scarcity says, "I am behind." Abundance says, "I am in process." Abundance is often the ability to breathe inside uncertainty. That is such a lovely way to think of it, because it brings abundance out of fantasy and back into the body. My dear one, if you feel yourself shrinking, rushing, comparing, or checking obsessively today, do not shame yourself. Just notice. Say, "Ah, I am in scarcity mode." Then soften. Breathe out slowly. Let the shoulders drop. Ask, what is one good thing here? What is one sign of support? What is one thing I do not need to rush? Then perhaps write down 3 good things before the day ends. Let that become your bridge back to a wider way of seeing. I do not need the whole future to calm down before I begin to feel safer now. And from that safer place, your mind will become more spacious, your heart more receptive, your choices more aligned, and life itself will often begin to feel less like a tunnel and more like a landscape. So let us keep this very simple as we close this part. Scarcity narrows, safety widens. Comparison, haste, and checking are signs of lack in the nervous system. 3 small good things are a way back. Peace is not a distant prize. Peace is the ground on which good becomes visible. What I notice shapes what I feel. What I feel shapes how I live. My dear one, your good is not always loud, but it is here. Your support is not always dramatic, but it is here. Your next step may not be a giant leap, but it is here. And when you begin to feel safe enough to notice that, everything begins to soften. My good is everywhere. I am secure and safe. All is well. Sharing this with you very gently, my dear one, because I know how easy it is for a tender heart to misunderstand a phrase like, "My good is everywhere." Some people hear words like that and immediately think, "So I am supposed to pretend nothing hurts. I am supposed to smile when I am tired. I am supposed to deny grief, ignore fear, and force myself into brightness when life feels heavy." No, my dear, that is not healing. That is not kindness. And that is not what I mean at all. My good is everywhere is not toxic positivity. It is loving perspective. It is not the denial of pain. It is the refusal to let pain become the only thing you can see. It is not saying everything is wonderful. It is saying even here, even now, there is still some good present too. And that is a very different thing, a much truer thing, a much gentler thing. Both can be true. I want you to hold that very close to your heart. Both can be true. You can be hurting and still supported. You can be disappointed and still guided. You can be grieving and still loved. You can be uncertain and still safe. You can be in a hard season and still have small goodness all around you. This matters so much because many people have been wounded by false positivity. They have been told to just think happy thoughts, to focus on the good in a way that felt dismissive, superficial, and almost cruel. They have been told to leap over their human feelings in order to appear spiritual, and their bodies knew that was not honest. My dear one, honesty is part of healing. If you are sad, you are sad. If you are overwhelmed, you are overwhelmed. If something truly hurts, then it hurts. We do not heal by lying to ourselves about what is here. We heal by allowing what is here and then gently expanding the frame so pain is not the whole sky. You do not have to deny the dark in order to see the light. That is why I love the phrase, both can be true. The hard thing can be real, and the helping thing can be real too. The fear can be present, and the support can be present too. The loss can be real, and the lesson can be real too. The delay can be painful, and the protection inside the delay can be real too. You can hurt and still be held. So when I say, my good is everywhere, I am not asking you to erase your pain. I am asking you to stop feeding the frightening story that says, everything is bad, everything is against me, nothing is helping, nothing is good, nothing is working, because that story exhausts the nervous system. It narrows the field. It tells the body there is no support anywhere, and the body begins to brace accordingly. But if you can shift from everything is bad to there is still some good here too, then something changes. The chest softens a little, the mind widens a little, the breath deepens a little. The body no longer feels abandoned by reality itself. I do not have to call everything terrible just because one thing hurts. That is a very healing truth, because pain always tries to generalize. It says, this hurts, therefore everything is wrong. This one door closed, therefore all doors are closed. This one person disappointed me, therefore no one is trustworthy. This one season is hard, therefore life is against me. But my dear one, pain is not always a reliable narrator. Sometimes it tells the truth of hurt, but not the truth of the whole picture. That is why I want you to practice letting both truths sit in the same room. Yes, this is hard. And yes, there is still support. Yes, I feel lonely. And yes, I am not without love. Yes, this is uncertain. And yes, I can still take one wise step. Yes, this hurts. And yes, there is still beauty in the day. This is not spiritual trickery. It is emotional honesty plus a wider lens. Both can be true. And when you let both be true, you stop making yourself choose between pain and hope, between realism and faith, between being human and being healed. You can be all of those things at once. You can be tender and strong. You can be shaken and still standing. You can cry and still trust that life has not stopped loving you. Now, because the mind learns through practice, I want to give you something very simple and very practical. I call it the good hunt. I love this exercise because it is not about forcing a fake mood. It is about training your attention. And attention, my dear one, is trainable. What you repeatedly look for, you become better at seeing. That is why fear can become so convincing. It has trained the radar to scan for what is wrong, what is late, what is missing, what is threatening. The good hunt lovingly retrains that radar. It says, we are not only going to look for what hurts, we are also going to look for what helps. And the beautiful thing is, the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You are retraining the habit of attention. That is all. Not forcing happiness, training attention. So here is the practice. Set a timer for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. And during those 5 minutes, look for 10 tiny good things. Not dramatic miracles, not giant breakthroughs. Small good, real good, believable good. A warm drink, a quiet breath, a comfortable chair, a patch of light on the wall, a kind message, a moment of silence, the fact that your body is still breathing, a tree outside the window, a memory that made you smile, a clean shirt, a little more clarity than yesterday, a moment you did not react in the old way, a song you love, a task that was easier than you expected, a delay that gave you time. My dear one, small good still counts as good. In fact, small good is often what heals the nervous system most gently because it does not trigger as much resistance. It is easy to believe. It is easy to feel. It is here. And every time you notice one of those little good things, I want you to exhale and say softly, thank you. Not because you are trying to become overly cheerful, but because gratitude helps the body receive what the eyes have noticed. The exhale calms the nervous system. The thank you softens the heart. And suddenly, you are no longer only consuming the day. You are also blessing it. You are saying, I saw that. I received that. I let that touch me. The exhale helps the good land in the body. That matters because many people can intellectually identify good, but they do not let it reach them somatically. They say, yes, yes, that is nice, but the nervous system is still locked in vigilance. So during the good hunt, let each tiny good thing become a tiny receiving moment. See it. Exhale. Thank you. See it. Exhale. Thank you. This is not childish, my dear. This is profound nervous system training. It says, we are safe enough to notice support. We are safe enough to let goodness in. And as you do this day after day, week after week, something remarkable begins to happen. The radar gets sharper. You begin to notice good more quickly. At first, it may feel like work. You may have to search, but that is all right. Search lovingly. This is the training. Over time, you begin to notice things without trying so hard. The tiny good things begin to appear more easily because attention has become more available to them. The more you practice, the more sensitive your radar becomes. What once felt hidden begins to feel obvious. What once seemed ordinary begins to feel supportive. What once passed unnoticed begins to feel like evidence that life is still helping you in 100 quiet ways. This is why the good hunt is so powerful. It is not merely about mood, it is about perception. It is about what kind of world your nervous system believes it is living in. Now, once you feel ready, you can gently raise the level of the practice. This does not mean forcing yourself to call painful things good. No, my dear, we are still being honest. But once your radar is a little softer, a little wider, you may begin asking one more question when something difficult happens. Is there any good hidden here? Not because the pain is good, but because perhaps within the pain there is a lesson, a protection, a redirection, a boundary, a truth, a simplification, a revelation, a necessary ending, a deeper honesty, or a wiser path. Maybe the closed door protected you from something not meant for you. Maybe the delay saved you from a rushed mistake. Maybe the discomfort revealed what was no longer aligned. Maybe the loneliness showed you where you had abandoned yourself. Maybe the failure taught you what the next attempt truly needs. Sometimes the good in a hard thing is not the event itself, but what it reveals, prevents, or redirects. That is a much wiser way of looking than either naive positivity or total despair. My dear one, I know that in the middle of pain, finding the good can feel almost impossible. So be gentle. If today all you can do is find one small comfort in the middle of the storm, let that be enough. A blanket, a friend, a prayer, a breath, a walk, a pause, a sentence that steadies you. Do not turn this practice into another way of pressuring yourself. The point is not to perform gratitude. The point is to remember that support has not disappeared from the universe simply because you are having a hard day. You can be in pain and still be supported. Both can be true. And when you let both be true, you begin to trust life more deeply, not because life is always easy, but because life is still carrying little forms of good, even through the hard parts. I also want to say something very tender here. Some days, the greatest good you can find is simply that you did not abandon yourself, that you kept going, that you rested instead of pushing, that you told yourself the truth, that you cried instead of numbing, that you asked for help, that you left what was hurting you, that you began again. My dear one, those things count. They count very much. Your own kindness toward yourself is one of the greatest forms of good you will ever find. So if the whole outer world feels confusing, begin there. Notice the one way you cared for your own life today. Exhale. Thank you. So let this be your gentle practice. Not everything is wonderful, but good is still here. Not I must be happy, but I am willing to notice support. Not pain is not real, but pain is not the whole story. Set your timer. Hunt for 10 tiny good things. Exhale and say thank you each time. And once in a while, when you are ready, look for one hidden good inside a difficult thing, not to deny the hurt, but to widen the frame. My dear one, the more you do this, the more your whole being begins to trust that life is not only threat, not only lack, not only struggle, not only darkness. The body softens, the heart opens, the mind widens, and then, so quietly, you begin to live in a world that feels more supportive, more breathable, more held. My good is everywhere, not because there is no pain, because pain is not all there is. I am secure and safe, not because nothing changes, because goodness still exists in the middle of change. Both can be true. And that, my dear one, is how hope becomes honest, how peace becomes embodied, and how the soul begins to breathe again. And now, my dear one, we come to a very tender and very important truth, because it is one thing to look for the good, and it is another thing to let yourself receive it. So many people can notice a blessing and still not quite let it land. They can see an opening and still not trust it. They can receive a kind word and still brace against it. They can feel a moment of ease and immediately prepare for it to disappear. That is why good must so often be joined with safe. Because when the body feels unsafe, it cannot fully receive what the heart has been asking for. It may want the good, it may long for the good, it may pray for the good. But if the nervous system is still living in alarm, then even goodness can feel unfamiliar, suspicious, or too good to trust. When the body feels safe, the mind can finally see the path. My dear one, that matters so much, because the frightened mind sees problems, but the soothed mind sees possibilities. The frightened mind narrows, but the safe mind opens. The frightened mind assumes loss, but the safe mind becomes willing to notice support. So let us not only speak about seeing the good, let us teach the body how to feel safe enough to receive it. I want to give you a very simple safety anchor now, something you can do in 90 seconds, something you can return to whenever your mind starts tightening. Whenever scarcity starts speaking loudly, whenever the day feels too uncertain, whenever you notice yourself beginning to doubt the good because your body is no longer calm enough to trust it, place one hand over your heart and one hand over your belly if that feels comfortable, or simply one hand wherever your body most wants reassurance. Let the shoulders soften, let the jaw unclench. Now breathe in for 4 slow counts and say quietly within yourself, I am secure. Then breathe out for 6 or 8 slow counts and say, I am safe. Again, inhale, I am secure. Exhale, I am safe. My dear one, feel what this does. Feel the body slowing down. Feel the heart being spoken to in a language it understands. Feel the breath lengthen, and with it, the space inside you widen. I am secure. I am safe. Again, I am secure. I am safe. You are not trying to hypnotize yourself into fantasy. You are telling the body the truth of this moment. You are saying, right now, in this breath, I can soften. Right now, in this moment, I do not need to live 3 steps ahead of life. Right now, I can let support touch me. That is very healing. That is how the body begins to believe in a gentler reality. And once the body becomes a little safer, the mind begins to see differently. It begins to notice more of what is already here. That is why I want to share with you some of the little signals of good that often surround you far more often than you realize. My dear one, the good is not always dramatic. It often arrives as clues, as hints, as little breadcrumbs, as quiet signs that life is still helping you even when the outer picture is not yet complete. A little idea that appears seemingly out of nowhere, that is a good signal. A phone call that comes at just the right time, that is a good signal. A delay that seems inconvenient but later saves you from a poor choice, that is a good signal. A kind person crossing your path, that is a good signal. A closed door that redirects you towards something truer, that is a good signal. A difficult experience that teaches you quickly what you no longer want, that is a good signal. A gentle lightness in your chest, a tiny sense of relief, that is a good signal. A moment of quiet in the middle of a noisy day, that is a good signal. A clear no where you used to stay confused, that is a good signal. One small step you actually managed to take today, that too is a good signal. The good often comes as clues before it comes as conclusions. I want you to really remember that, because if you are only looking for fireworks, you will miss the breadcrumbs. Let us stay with those signals for a moment, because each one teaches the nervous system something beautiful. An idea that appears means your inner world is still open enough for guidance. A random call may remind you that support can arrive in ways you did not plan. A delay that protects you teaches you that not every pause is punishment. A kind person reminds you that life has not run out of warmth. A closed door that redirects you teaches you that endings can contain intelligence. A fast lesson teaches you that even challenge may be useful. A light feeling in the chest tells you the body knows when something is right. A quiet moment tells you peace is still available. A clear no tells you confusion is not your only option. A small action completed tells you momentum still lives in you. My dear one, these are not little meaningless details. These are ways life says, I am still with you. I am still moving. I am still speaking. Good often appears as a clue before it appears as a full answer. And this is why I want you to become a collector of good signals, not in a superstitious way, in a loving way, in a steady way, in a way that retrains the radar. So when one of these little clues appears, do not rush past it. Pause, feel it, let it register. Say quietly, "Thank you." Let the body know you noticed. Let the nervous system know that support has been seen. Because what you notice with appreciation, you become more available to. I notice the clue. I let it land. I say, "Thank you." This is how the field of life begins to feel different, not because reality suddenly becomes perfect, but because you are no longer missing all the ways it is already helping. Now, let us come back to the body again, because if you really want to shift from scarcity into trust, from fear into receiving, from tunnel vision into a broader way of living, the body must be included. The body is not an afterthought. The body is part of the prayer. The body is part of the manifestation. The body is part of the opening. So when you say, "My good is everywhere," let the body be soft enough to hear it. When you say, "I am secure and safe," let the exhale be longer. When you say, "My mind is open, my heart is calm," let the shoulders drop and the belly loosen. When you say, "I release scarcity and welcome abundance," let the chest know there is no emergency. My dear one, the body listens. And when the body believes safety, the mind stops scanning so wildly. It stops assuming loss. It stops rushing. It stops shrinking. It starts seeing paths. It starts noticing openings. It starts recognizing what anxious eyes could not see before. When the body believes it is safe, the mind begins to see the road. And I think this is one of the most loving truths of all. You do not have to wait until everything outside is settled before you let the body soften. You do not have to complete the whole journey before you let yourself feel safe for one breath. You do not have to solve every uncertainty before you let your shoulders come down. The old frightened self says, later, after, when, once. But healing says, now, right here, one breath at a time. So if the world has felt loud, if your life has felt uncertain, if scarcity has been speaking loudly in your chest or belly, return to the anchor, hand on the heart. Hand on the belly. Inhale, I am secure. Exhale, I am safe. Again, I am secure. I am safe. Let that become part of your life. Let that become part of your day. Let that become one of the ways you stop asking the outside world to do all the calming for you. And now, my dear one, let us gather this whole teaching gently into your hands. Good is not always loud. Good often comes as clues. Safety is not separate from goodness. Safety allows you to notice and receive it. Scarcity narrows the field, but calm opens it. The body that feels safer sees more clearly. The radar that is trained to notice good becomes more sensitive to support. And slowly, faithfully, lovingly, Your life begins to feel different, not because all conditions change at once, but because the way you live inside yourself begins to change. My good is everywhere. I am secure and safe. My mind is open. My heart is calm. I release scarcity and welcome abundance. My dear one, these are not just lovely words. They are a new atmosphere, a new orientation, a new relationship with life. So let us close together slowly, the way I would want these words to settle into your body. Read them with me as though you are blessing your own mind, your own breath, your own day, your own future. My good is everywhere. My good is everywhere. My good is everywhere. I am secure and safe. My mind is open. My heart is calm. I release scarcity and welcome abundance. All is well, and so it is. And if today you are choosing to train your radar toward the good, if today you are choosing to soften scarcity and let yourself be a little more available to support, then say it. Good is everywhere. Good is everywhere.